We're back with more of our special series on 1964's Freedom Summer, a turning point for the Civil Rights Movement and for America. In Washington, President Johnson was preparing to sign the Civil Rights Act into law. And in Mississippi, hundreds of students from around the country, many of them white, were coming down for the Freedom Summer. It was an unprecedented action to highlight racial injustice in one of the most segregated states in the nation. And in the center of it all was an activist named Bob Moses. He organized the Freedom Summer and became one of the great icons of the civil rights movement.
Young people working with the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, or SNCC as we call it, are characterized by restless energy. They seek radical change in race relations in the United States. Their world is upset, and they feel that if they are ever going to get it straight, they must upset it more.
A young teacher born in Harlem, Moses gave up his life in the North to join the civil rights fight in the South. He was shot at and threatened with death countless times as he worked to get poor blacks registered to vote in Mississippi. He inspired hundreds of young people from every walk of life to join the cause from the cotton fields and dirt roads of Mississippi. Bob Moses changed American history. I'm honored now to welcome this great man, a personal hero of mine, the man who launched Freedom Summer, Dr. Bob Moses. Thank you for being here tonight, Dr. Moses.
Thank you, Al.
What was it like in Mississippi then? I mean, give us an idea of the atmosphere, the environment that people were coming into.
So you were dealing with a state that had decided that it would be a rule unto itself. In other words, that it had figured out how to prevent any agency, including the FBI, of the federal government from actually having direct impact in Mississippi. It was from the governor. They had set up, which we didn't know about until later, a Sovereignty Commission, which acted like an intelligence agency, which was gathering information about anybody. I mean, Mississippi was a place where white people couldn't cross a line, right? One example was the Hefner family in Macomb in 1964, which decided to just invite some volunteers to meet them to their home. Their daughter had been Miss Mississippi. They were run out of town the next day.
Miss Mississippi's family was run out of town?
Out of town, out of Macomb, because her father and mother decided just that they would meet some volunteers.
Just meet people. Just meet them.
Yes.
I mean, because it was revolutionary to have white students working with blacks, living together, eating together at that time. Is that not right?
That's the issue. That was what Mississippi was afraid of, that if you had white people coming down and actually had white women in the same house with black men, eating at the table, using the same toilets, right, using the same washroom, that this would undermine the whole idea of apartheid, which was operating the absolute need to separate the races for social purposes.
Now, it's hard now to imagine the climate of fear and oppression in Mississippi that summer. I mean, how did people deal with the constant threat of violence?
Well, here's the thing. It was guerrilla warfare, right? So it's not constant. So you weren't always in danger. That was the point. You had to know when you were in real danger. But most of the time, we were living in the base. And then you would make your sortie out into, you know, the courthouse. That was the place, right? But so you went through these different layers over and over again, right? The state itself, the local sheriff, and then the outreach of the KKK, the version of the White League that resorted to violence.
Now, what are your thoughts now as you look at the work that you did 50 years ago and see how some are trying to turn back the clock on voting rights? How do you see things now?
Yeah, so here's what I think. I think if you think about Jim Crow, which was a form of slavery by another name, Jim Crow, we succeeded 50 years ago in making the moves that got Jim Crow out of 3 distinct areas of American life. We got it out of public accommodations, we got it out of the right to vote, and we got it out of the National Democratic Party structure. That was Fannie Lou Hamer and the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. But we did not get it out of education. And so the work of the 21st century that was left undone in that movement is really how are we going to raise the issue of the public school education of every child in this country to the level of the Constitution. Right now, young children are citizens of states only for purposes of their education. We need them to be citizens of the country for that purpose.
Bob Moses, thank you for your lifetime of service and for your time this evening.
Thank you, sir.